Welcome to the We Are Wake Tech podcast with your host, Wake Tech President, Dr. Scott Ralls.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast. It's November. We're reaching the end of a fall semester, but November is also a time when we celebrate Veterans Day and we recognize the importance of our military veterans, their families, what they mean to us in our communities and at Wake Tech and across this great community. And today we have a couple of great people to talk about the roles of veterans at not just Wake Tech, but also our great partner at NC State and a connection that we have with veterans. And so today it's very, very good day to have Scarlet Edwards, who's our Associate Vice President for Military and Veterans and Special Programs here at Wake Tech, and Nick Drake, who is the Director of the Jeffrey Wright Military. Nick, tell me again.
Military and Veteran Services.
Military and Veteran Services. I got close,
You got it.
and then I flamed out there at the end. But they work together, and NC State and Wake Tech work together. And we want to talk about that great partnership as we collectively try to partner and support our veterans, our military, their dependents here in our community, because they are so important to each of us. And we think about them particularly in this month of November. So Scarlet, Nick, thank you for joining me today on the We Are Wake Tech podcast.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Ralls.
As we get started, I always like to ask our guests to tell us a little bit about themselves, how they came into their particular roles, whether it's at Wake Tech or in this case, Nick at NC State. And Scarlet earns a special recognition at Wake Tech, a first of its kind, because she is the first return guest on the We Are Wake Tech podcast. So Scarlet, you've been here in other roles because there's so many unique and important programs under your purview, but nothing more important than our support of our veterans and our students. And this fall, we reached a threshold. We crossed the 1,000 threshold in terms of our veterans and their dependents. So thank you for the support you're providing. Tell us a little bit about Scarlet and how you came into this role and how you interact with our veterans, our military, and their dependents.
Thank you again for this opportunity. And I'll start by saying I'm the product of a North Carolina community college. That's where I started my college journey. And so it really is an honor to be able to now serve at a community college. I've been here at Wake Tech for 18 years, which sounds crazy to say, but time flies when you're having fun, right? And so in my role now, I've been in this role for about 4 years. And part of why that's so special to me is my husband is an Air Force veteran. My father-in-law and my grandfather were both Navy veterans. And so this gives me the opportunity to demonstrate my appreciation, not only for their service, but to put that into action and to be able to serve others.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and as America's most, as we like to say, most military-friendly state in North Carolina, if you're not a veteran, you certainly are, in most cases, a relative of a veteran because of the bases we have here and the military presence that we have that we're so proud of in North Carolina. Nick, tell us your story and getting to your unique role at NC State.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you again, Dr. Ralls, for having me and Scarlet for helping organize this. But again, my name is Nick Drake. I have the privilege of serving as the Director of Military and Veteran Services here at NC State. I've been in this role, so at the end of this month, it'll be 7 years, but I've been at NC State for 10. I'm currently in year 18 of my military service, so I've National Guard now. I did the first portion of my career with multiple deployments. I was enlisted, got out for almost 6 years, and then had the idea of getting back in. So I've had a pretty long career in the military, and one that I'm very proud of. For us here at NC State in this role, I think it was important. I think it was around the time, Scarlet, that you all had established your resource center too. So again, coming into this space and being able to serve those students has been, it's been a privilege for me.
And Nick, you're the director of the Jeffrey Wright. So Jeffrey Wright must be a unique person.
Yeah. So Jeffrey Wright, him and his wife Kelly had given it a significant naming right gift. So it'll actually be 2 years this Veterans Day. So that gift has helped us significantly increase the programs and services that we've been able to give to our students here at North Carolina State.
Well, kudos to the Wrights.
Yeah, they're great people. Got to see them actually at Military Appreciation Day game this past Saturday. So it's always good seeing them.
That's great. That's great. Well, Scarlet, here at Wake Tech, our veterans and their dependents are growing, just like our student population is growing at Wake Tech. We of this fall, in terms of those that we have record of, we have 1,035 registered veterans and dependents, 774 veterans, 291 dependents. And something that's unique here, we had a podcast, I think it was 2 podcasts ago, about our care teams and our care centers. And that's a kind of a transformation of our approach to advising and student support here at Wake Tech. And that also includes a new veterans care team. Can you tell us a little bit about that exciting new opportunity here and how we're organizing around our care teams to support our veterans?
Yes. So our care teams are a different approach, as you said, to really wrap around students, if you will. And so our care teams include advisors and success coaches and career coaches to really help students walk through their entire academic journey and cover all the bases, if you will, the academic piece, the career piece, but then also all of the life situations that happen along the way. What makes the veterans care team unique is that we also bring in our veterans benefit specialist. And so there's some nuances when our veterans use their benefits, and those individuals step in to help try to make sure that process is as seamless as possible, that they've got the classes that they need when they need them. They understand how the benefits will cover that, and just try to remove some of the barriers and some of the challenges that do sometimes bubble up for our veterans.
And we have care centers here on our campuses, but we also, uniquely for our veterans at Wake Tech, have veterans zones at our southern 2 largest campus, southern and northern, at RTP, and a new site that we're locating out at our new Wake Tech East site in Wendell. What's a veteran zone?
So our veteran zones are really what we think of as safe spaces, if you will, for our veterans and our military connected students. They're oftentimes a little bit smaller than our student commons areas. They're sometimes quieter spaces that our veterans and their dependents can come. Some will come to work on homework. Some will come for different events. NC State hosted an information session in our zone at South back in the spring semester. They'll come sometimes to grab a snack, to catch up, but it's really their hub, if you will. And we are thrilled to be able to have the space at East. We've been able to design that space from the ground up. So we're really excited to see that space come online in addition to the other 3.
Great. And to support our veterans, it means we have to be prepared for that. And one of the ways we do that's through what is known as Green Zone Training. Can you tell us about Green Zone Training?
Yeah, so Green Zone Training is a training that, again, the state has helped us with, but it allows us to offer faculty and staff some insights into the unique needs, challenges, but also the tremendous strengths that our veterans bring to the classroom. And so we offer those trainings monthly at various campuses and online as well. And it really is that ticket to help our faculty, staff, our Wake Tech community know how to best support our veteran students.
Great. You said something there, and Nick, I'm going to ask you, and maybe you and Scarlet can go back and forth and talk about it a little bit, but you said NC State helped us, and I think it was a career. Was that what you said it was, Scarlet, recently? It was a career?
So they helped us with providing the Green Zone training. They came, Nick and several of his colleagues came and hosted a train the trainer, if you will. So they walked us through the Green Zone training program that they provided NC State. And then we were able to take that content and adapt it to our environment here at Wake Tech. And it was just a wonderful opportunity to build the partnership with Nick and his team, but then also to see that evolution to what it can be here at Wake Tech as well.
And community colleges and universities share I think a unique relationship in our state, and we've been so close with our partners at NC State. Of all our transfer partners, NC State's our top transfer partner in terms of the number of students who are transferring beyond Wake Tech onto a university. We've shared over the years marvelous relationships. The recent dean of engineering, Louis Martin Vega, is on our board here at Wake Tech. I get together with the chancellor at the farmers market for breakfast about once every 3 or 4 months. And so we have a unique bond between Wake Tech and NC State, but that translates uniquely into the support of our military students. And Nick, your name, Scarlett's already told a little bit about how some you've been supporting, but can you talk about that unique relationship between Wake Tech and NC State and how that comes together to support our veterans?
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Ralls, you alluded to it a little bit, and Scarlet, specifically talked about it. But it really is a win-win situation. I would be remiss also if I didn't let you know that I'm a community college product as well. So part of that was, due to my military service and some of the unique, some of those unique challenges that you have being a little bit older and making that transition.
Which community college?
So I was not in North Carolina, but I was in the State University of New York. So Corning Community College. Yeah, so I was a student athlete up there while I was in the reserves, and also finished out my time up there.
Oh, yeah.
Great experience, and always has a special place in my heart. But as we talk about some of the specific relationships, it really is a win-win for service members. That transition can be very difficult. So a lot of times when we talk about coming into a 4-year school, competitive requirements. Do I apply as a first year? Do I apply as a transfer? If I do come in as a transfer, what does that look like? So there's a golden opportunity for us here in the heart of North Carolina, especially in close proximity to several military installations, to partner with one another to help students make that transition from the service into the career field that they want to be in. So Scarlett had talked about the green zone. That's one, great example. Just like, we assisted and helped out, we had that same help when we were getting ready to establish ours a few years prior to that. UNC Chapel Hill, ECU were two of the first in the state to have that program. But I think that's really important because in the work that we do, and I speak to myself, especially 100% of what I do works with our military and veteran students here at NC State, that there are several faculty and staff that have connection points with these students throughout each day. And I think it's important that, they're taking part in that to understand just a little bit more on how we support their persistence on the graduation here at the universities. And then lastly, we talk about students, kind of the transition piece and how critical that is, not just from an academic advising standpoint, but also the support services that go into that. So both of our institutions, we do have great resources on the institutions or on the campuses themselves, but there are, and we're very fortunate really to say this, that we do have a lot of community resources and partners that both of us tap into as well, that help kind of that holistic care for the veterans and their family members as well as they look to make those transitions.
Scarlett, share some more about that relationship.
Well, I'll start by saying we are able to have those familiar faces. So we've got students, we've got about 40, is that right, Nick, that are with
That's
you
correct.
now that came to us or came to you
Through us.
from us. And so when we bring you and your team members over to our campus, or when we take a group of students over to your campus, we're beginning to form those relationships early on. We're also able to make that engagement not only with our campus, but with your campus early on. And I think you mentioned before that transition piece. We understand that oftentimes for the military connected community, there have been a lot of transitions, and some of those haven't always been smooth. And so while we're working along through this process and this partnership, we are looking to see how can we make this a little bit smoother for those students. And I think that starts with this partnership. We have that familiar face. Our veteran students here, if they're interested in transferring to state, they know Nick before they're ever ready to apply for admission to NC State. And so that's a beautiful piece of that partnership there. I think the other thing that I would mention is we're also able to really like this past weekend, Nick, you mentioned it. We had a military appreciation night football game. That was Saturday night, I believe. And we had a group of students that were able to go, our Wake Tech students were able to join and be part of that. And so when we talk a lot about campus engagement and how do we make sure that students feel like they're a part of Wake Tech or feel like they're a part of NC State, that's a way that we're able to do that. And they get the benefit of feeling the connection to both places.
And Dr. Ralls, if I may just add, so Scarlet had said something, the connection is the important thing, right? And we've learned this through several iterations of our orientation programs here as well, is that we can get a lot of campus and community partners together to provide overviews of their offices and their services. But what we found is that it's very similar to that transition from the military, where it's kind of like drinking through a fire hose. Military service runs 180 degrees from what it's like in the civilian sector, and especially on a college campus where you're trying to navigate who does what office is responsible for what. So I think the important thing that Scarlett had mentioned is that familiarity with the staff and the team here at the both, whether it's Wake Tech or NC State, being familiar with them and comfortable enough to ask when they need assistance. And that's kind of the message we try to leave with the students is, by all means, we're not going to dissuade you from trying to be self-sufficient and find the answers or seek them yourself, but understand we're here to help kind of navigate that, or be a case manager, if you will, to help you kind of navigate that transition process.
So what it sounds like to me, what our two institutions, Wake Tech and NC State, are saying is that we're thanks to the service of our veterans, and Nick, thank you for your service as a veteran. We're essentially providing concierge service in a way to our veterans, an extra support because of the service they provided. And because of our relationships and thanks to our partner at NC State, we're able to go beyond that because so many military veterans oftentimes start at a community college like you did, Nate, but their ultimate goal is to go to a university. And so there is this effort that continues collectively between us that smooths that whole process out and carries that concierge service from Wake Tech to NC State.
Absolutely. And I would say it's not us just performing our duties in a vacuum. I think that's what's great about this relationship is that it's easy for us to just say, hey, the veterans or the family members are at Wake Tech. They've got advisors. Their advisors know what the critical elements are, the requirements are, let's say if they want to go into computer engineering. But I also think it's important to note that myself, I work hand in hand with our director of undergraduate admissions, John Westover, and John right now reviews every single veteran application that comes into NC State. So part of that is he and I working together to evaluate that. But what I'm getting at is the info sessions that we do. So, Scarlett had talked about our relationship and being able to come over to Wake Tech, sit in the veteran zone and meet with students on campus. We can answer their questions about, veterans education is one piece of it because it's certainly the most important in most cases, because if you don't get paid, that's a barrier to a lot of them even, getting in the door or persisting, if you will. But it's that, what does a competitive applicant look like from the NC State side? So if I take, English 111, 112, I take my critical calculus math, the 271, 272, am I going to be competitive or am I missing something? And that's where John and I on this side can work with Scarlett and her team to say, hey, we've really got to try to get this student into these specific courses. This is going to set them up for success as long as they uphold their end of the bargain and get the grades. We can get them in here to NC State in that specific program.
And Nick, you touched on this, but I think that's another piece of it too, the benefits piece. We also are able to work closely to ensure that students are able to maximize their benefits. We'll have students express to us sometimes some concern and question, well, maybe I shouldn't use my benefits here while I'm at Wake Tech because I want to save them. I know I want to go on for a bachelor's. I know I want to go to NC State, and we're able to really talk them through how they can maximize using their benefits both here at Wake Tech, but also still have enough left to cover them through their time at NC State as well. And so that's another way that this partnership benefits our students.
And it's a great point, Scarlett. And I think with the benefits piece, right, taking it even a step further, when we talk about what is the end goal for these students, right? Is it simply, we get a bachelor's degree and that's it? Are we looking at master's degrees? Or in many of the cases, right, if they have eligible dependents that they're transferring benefits to Scarlett's point, how do we maximize that? How do we counsel them and advise them correctly? Because again, I was at community college. I was using a form of the benefit that was for Reserve and National Guard select individuals. And, when you get those benefits, you have a beginning and end date. It's 36 months. You can extend it out 12 months if you're using dual benefits. But the point being is that if I had known better back in that time or had better counsel, I probably would have used the tuition assistance program to cover the cost, as opposed to just using the benefit, knowing in hindsight that post 9/11 was going to be a thing, 5-6 years later, because it is very much more a robust benefit and you can maximize that length of time that you're getting on.
And there's a lot of nuance to making sure
Absolutely.
that they can and that's where the expertise is so important in terms of the advising and the counseling support services that are there at a Wake Tech or an NC State.
Sure.
I'm very biased, but it's hard for me to think of more opportunities for the benefits that are provided to our veterans, but to a community college and a university that collectively could provide more opportunity to a veteran than the combo of Wake Tech and NC State. That's pretty much powerhouse, I think, in terms of the programmatic opportunities and these programs that we support each other on with our veterans, make sure that they're able to maximize that. And I have to give you kudos to Nick and all our partners at NC State for picking that football game against Miami as the military. That was quite a strong performance by the Pack that night.
It was. Got Clemson too the week before, so
yeah,
I'm just saying, I'm gonna throw that in. So
yeah, but just having one of those 2 night games, that's quite a treat for our Wake Tech veteran students. So thank you for including them in that, what was a big victory night for the Wolfpack recently. Scarlett, one other thing before we wrap up here. So, it's about connecting with our veterans, and we do that. We have student organizations. We've had very active and strong student organizations and leaders of those student organizations. We also have another partnership in Upward Bound with Central Carolina. Can you talk a little bit about those opportunities that exist as well for our veteran students at Wake Tech?
Sure, I'll be happy to. I'll start with our student organization. So first off, we have our Student Veterans of America group here, and that really brings our student veterans together for monthly meetings. They have some fun outings, but then they also participate in some service projects. They packaged food not too long ago at the food bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina. And so it's just a good opportunity for students to be able to connect around service, but then also connect around some different fun activities, both on campus and off campus. One of our newer student organizations is Salute, which is actually the only National Honor Society that recognizes and honors the service and scholastic achievements of our veterans. And so we've got a group of students who have been inducted through that, and we'll have another group that'll come along this year as well. And then the last thing that I'll just touch on briefly is our partnership with Central Carolina Community College, and that's our Veterans Upward Bound program, and that provides a variety of different services to students: tutoring, resource connection. Again, it's really about that engagement piece. And that's, I think, the thread that I see that pulls through all of these different organizations and opportunities is that connection and that engagement that we're able to provide for our veteran students and for their dependents.
Well, thank you. And it's, our veterans and our veteran students and their dependents are important to us every day of the year, every month of the year. But we particularly think about them in November when Veterans Day approaches. And so here at Wake Tech, we're doing that as well. This is the week of Veterans Day. And so we start with donuts in the morning. And I think we have lunch pickups at our green zones for our veterans. And then we'll have a veterans ceremony at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, November 8th with at our southern campus, and a special recognition of the 248th birthday of the Marine Corps. So it's also Marine Corps birthday time as well. And we certainly have a great Marine Corps presence in North Carolina with Camp Lejeune and Cherry Point, where I was proud to be president at Craven Community College and work with the folks at Cherry Point. And then next week on the 15th, we'll have a military appreciation night at our Eagles basketball games. It will start at 5:30 with our women's game, and then followed by the men's game, appropriately against Fayetteville Tech. So that does such a great job in serving Fort Bragg. And this year, I heard that, haven't had a chance to meet him yet, but I heard that one of our top players was a student who is returning back to us, who was a top scorer for us back several years ago, and then went into the military and had a military career, and now is coming back for one more year at Wake Tech and is a leader on our basketball team. So, it all just kind of cycles around, and it's so great to see veterans and the families of veterans at our institution, and to connect those opportunities to the great opportunities that exist to move to our top transfer partner, NC State. And so I want to thank again our guest today on the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Been very pleased to have Nick Drake, the director of the Jeffrey Wright Military and Veterans Program at NC State, and another great NC State partner for Wake Tech, and one of our great superstars here at Scarlet. Now, our Scarlet Edwards, our first return guest to the We Are Wake Tech podcast, our Associate Vice President for Military, Veterans, and Special Population Programs. So, Scarlet, thank you. Nick, thanks for joining us on this episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast.
Thanks so much, Dr. Ralls, for having me. And thanks again, Scarlet, for organizing it. I do appreciate it.
Thank you both.
And to all our listeners today, thank you for joining us on this special Veterans Day episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Join us again next month as we'll talk about something else that's exciting that's happening at Wake Tech. Again, I'm your host, Scott Ralls, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast.
I'm Joshua McKinney with your Wake Tech News Update. Public safety and emergency preparedness in North Carolina is getting a much needed boost. Wake Tech and Elizabeth City State University are joining forces on programs in aviation, unmanned aircraft systems, and criminal justice. Leaders signed an agreement giving ECSU a presence at Wake Tech East, the college's newest location in Wendell. The agreement, which was flown in on a drone in a special ceremony, calls for the two institutions to work together on an aviation and public safety educational partnership. Wake Tech students, faculty, and staff gathered at the Southern Wake campus to celebrate all who have served our country. The college hosted a Veterans Day observance that included patriotic music from the 82nd Airborne Division Band and a keynote address by George A. Higgins, a retired general in the United States Army, West Point graduate, and current adjunct professor of philosophy at Wake Tech. Wake Tech is proud to be a military-friendly Gold Award institution, a designation earned for services and programs the college offers veterans and their family members pursuing education, training, and professional development. A record number of attendees visited the Southern Wake campus for open house. Nearly 900 prospective students and their families explored classrooms and specialized training labs for culinary arts, cosmetology, heavy equipment, and skilled trades. Information sessions were held on admissions, financial aid, career services, dual enrollment, and university transfer. Now's a great time to apply for spring. Visit apply.waketech.edu and get started today. If you live in Southern Wake County, don't forget about one of Wake Tech's best-kept secrets, the Western Wake campus on Kildare Farm Road in Cary. It's a great place to take your classes close to home. Wake Tech hosted a flu shot clinic at the Perry Health Sciences campus to celebrate National Pharmacy Week, which recognizes the invaluable contribution pharmacists and pharmacy technicians play in patient care. The event gave pharmacy technology students the opportunity to see firsthand what is required to administer vaccinations, something they are learning how to do. Wake Tech biotech students have received a vital, cost-saving gift thanks to the generosity of one of the college's key industry partners, Fujifilm Diosynth Biotechnologies. 500 lab coats were handed out during a special ceremony at Wake Tech's RTP campus. The lab coats are for students in the biotechnology and biopharmaceutical technology associate degree programs, biotech students at the Wake Early College for Information and Biotechnologies, and biopharma students at Vernon Malone College and Career Academy. Students in Wake Tech's non-degree biowork program also received lab coats. Students and alumni from Wake Tech and Durham Tech are poised to start rewarding careers in the biotechnology industry. About 200 students and alumni took advantage of a recent career fair at our RTP campus. The goal of the event was to recruit students and recent graduates from the biotechnology and biopharmaceutical technology associate degree programs and the biowork non-degree certification. Wake Tech baking and pastry art students Victoria Dunn and Amber Quinn are among 18 recipients chosen from across the country for the 2023 U.S. Food Scholarship Award. Each scholarship includes $20,000 to help cover education expenses. U.S. Foods awards scholarships to students who demonstrate outstanding potential and achievement in the culinary arts. Wake Tech celebrated science, technology, engineering, and math at the Fall STEM Day at the Scott Northern Wake campus. Students, faculty, and staff gathered to see exhibits and hands-on activities illustrating STEM disciplines, including do-it-yourself lava lamps and Petri dish soaps. Students learned about STEM-related clubs and met classmates with similar interests. And finally, the Wake Tech community came together to celebrate autumn during Fall Fest. Assistant Chief of College Police Wyatt Cumbo spent time getting to know our students while encouraging them to do their best in the classroom. Take a look.
Welcome to Wake Tech Harvest Fair. Wake Tech Harvest Fair. No pressure. Let me give you one more. You got 3 or 4. Make your, oh, close. Put a little bit more oomph in it. 20, you're in there. It's house money. Playing with house money. All right, put a down payment on the Escalade. There we go. Let's get it. Get it in there. Get it in there. Oh, you got to get in the center now. Try for the center. Take a brief intermission. Watch out there now. Oh, 15. 5 points a win. 5 points. You 20. Yeah! What a win. Way to go, my friend. Good job. Good job. You get 2. Thank you so much. All right. All right. Welcome to Wake Tech Harvest Fair.
And that's your Wake Tech News Update.
Hi, I'm Andrea Bacci. I'm the Program Director for Interior Design, and today I'm going to tell you a few tips on holiday decorating. So initially, the first thing to consider would be the style of your house. If you look at your house and notice, is it a traditional style house or a contemporary style house, that might initially help you decide which type of decorations to choose. Going more traditional with white lights and garlands, or more contemporary with colored lights and ornamentation. Another good thing to consider would be, is your house or interiors symmetrical or asymmetrical? Consider if it's symmetrical, you would want to balance things on either side of the symmetry line. So if you have a fireplace, you might want to balance things on either side of the mantle. Or your front door might have windows on both sides, so you'd want to put ornamentation on both sides. If you have an asymmetrical house or room, you would want to consider how you can fill the space and create a sense of balance with larger ornamentation on one side where there's a bigger open space, smaller ornamentation on the other side where there's less open space. Another thing to consider would be incorporating family traditions. So growing up, did your family use real fir and garlands? Did they use real trees? Incorporating that into your decor can also create a sense of familiarity and family ties. Another aspect that you could do would be to think about how to mix it up every year. One way that you can do that is by doing a trend of a specific color palette. So incorporating a main color theme in your ornamentation and decor for the year. If you like classic, stick to whites, silvers, and golds. Those are my tips on holiday decor.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Join us next month for more insightful conversations about the programs and people of Wake Tech and how the college changes lives every day. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast app to have each episode delivered right to your computer or mobile device. For more, find us at podcast.waketech.edu. To learn more about Wake Tech's exceptional educational opportunities, visit waketech.edu.